A crack in the world, nearly a kilometer long, has begun to make sounds. Locals call it the gateway to the underworld, and they might be right. This is the Batagaika crater, a wound carved not by a meteor, but by our own actions. It didn't exist on any map before the 1960s. Now, it grows by up to 30 meters every single year. You are looking at the largest permafrost crater on Earth. Permafrost is a layer of soil, gravel, and sand bound by ice that has remained frozen for thousands of years. In some parts of Siberia, it's over a kilometer thick. Think of it as the planet's concrete foundation, a foundation that is now melting. The process began when a section of forest was cleared for industry. With the insulating trees gone, the summer sun began to warm the unprotected ground. The ice within the soil started to thaw, and the land simply collapsed. But the official reports from that era don't mention the speed. They don't prepare you for this. A scar 100 meters deep, a sheer cliff of mud and ancient ice, and it is alive. Scientists have placed sensitive microphones along the crater's edge. They wanted to measure the rate of collapse. Instead, they captured a broadcast. And no, it's not radio waves. It's the sound of a world coming apart. You hear deep, resonant booms as massive sections of frozen earth detach and fall. A constant, unsettling hiss as ancient ice turns directly into gas. And then, the groans. Long, low-frequency vibrations as the very geology of the region is put under stress it was never meant to bear. This is a thermokarst depression. As it deepens, it exposes layers of soil that are 650,000 years old. It's a perfect timeline of ancient climate, a library of Earth's history. But libraries are not supposed to scream, and the sound is only half of the story. The other half is what's being released into our atmosphere. As the ancient ice melts, it releases colossal plumes of methane. Methane is a greenhouse gas with more than 80 times the warming power of carbon dioxide over a 20-year period. So the warmer it gets, the faster the crater grows. The faster it grows, the more methane it releases. The more methane it releases, the warmer our world gets. You see where this is going? It's a feedback loop, one we may have already lost control of. But even that catastrophic cycle is not the most immediate threat being broadcast from the ice. As the crater unearths ancient soil, it's also unearthing ancient biology. Microbes and viruses, frozen for 500,000 years, are now thawing and being exposed to our modern world. And the one question scientists are racing to answer is, what happens when they wake up? In 2016, a 12-year-old boy in Siberia died from anthrax. 20 others were hospitalized. You might think anthrax is a disease of the past, but this outbreak wasn't a historical anomaly. It was a direct consequence of the warming permafrost. An infected reindeer carcass, frozen for 75 years, thawed. Its deadly bacteria, once dormant, became active again. This wasn't an isolated incident. Think about what that means for us, for you. The official narrative often downplays these risks, but the reality is far more concerning. Scientists like Dr. Jean-Michel Claverie, a French geneticist, have been warning about this for years. He isn't talking about common bacteria. He's speaking of giant viruses. Viruses frozen in the permafrost, some for tens of thousands of years. Consider this. In 2014, Claverie and his team revived a 30,000-year-old virus from Siberian permafrost. It was still infectious. It targeted amoebas, not humans, but it proved the concept. And now pay attention to this. The Batagaika crater exposes soil layers 650,000 years old. That's more than 20 times older than the virus Claverie revived. What else could be waiting? We are talking about microbes that have not encountered human immune systems for hundreds of millennia. Our bodies have no defense, no memory. It's like opening a biological time capsule, and what's inside could be completely alien to modern medicine. This isn't science fiction. This is happening now. The locals have their own stories, passed down through generations. Tales of a sickness that came from the earth, a fever that burned through villages. These were dismissed as folklore, until now, until the permafrost began to melt on a scale never before witnessed. The sheer volume of exposed ancient ice is unprecedented. The Batagaika crater, now growing by up to 30 meters annually, is a window into a forgotten biological past. You see the exposed soil strata, each layer a chapter in Earth's history. And within those layers, dormant for epochs, are billions of microbial organisms, some harmless, some not. Professor Sergei Zimov, a leading permafrost scientist, has been studying this region for decades. He estimates the permafrost holds twice as much carbon as the atmosphere currently does. That's 1,600 gigatons of organic matter. A ticking carbon bomb. But carbon isn't the only concern. The deeper you go into the crater, the older the layers become. You are looking at soil that predates human civilization, soil that holds the secrets of ancient ecosystems and ancient diseases. What did the world look like 650,000 years ago? What pathogens thrived then? How did they affect the megafauna that roamed Siberia? No one can definitively answer these questions. Not yet. We are entering uncharted biological territory. The very landscape is changing. The land itself is groaning. The permafrost, once a stable foundation, is becoming a fluid, shifting mass. It's like a colossal biological refrigerator, unplugged, and everything inside is like warming. The sounds from the crater are not just the collapse of Earth. They are the whispers of ancient life, stirring. The hiss of gas escaping, the low rumble of massive ice wedges melting. It's a symphony of decay, and it's a broadcast, a message from a past we thought was safely buried. But this message isn't just about ancient viruses. It's about the very air you breathe. As the permafrost thaws, vast quantities of methane and carbon dioxide are released. These are potent greenhouse gases. The crater is not just a geological curiosity. It is a major contributor to global warming. It is a self-reinforcing cycle, a feedback loop accelerating our climate crisis. The more it melts, the more it releases. The more it releases, the faster the planet warms. And the faster the planet warms, the more permafrost melts. It's a runaway train, and the Batagaika crater is one of its engines. But what if the greatest danger isn't the ancient microbes or the greenhouse gases? What if it's something we cannot even conceive? Something that challenges our understanding of life itself? Isn't the ancient microbes or the greenhouse gases? What if it's something we cannot even conceive? Something that challenges our understanding of life itself? The answer, it turns out, lies not in what the crater reveals, but in what it hides. The Batagaika crater is not just a hole in the ground. It is a geological in the ground. It is a geological anomaly. It is a massive, expanding void, and it's not alone. This is where it gets truly unsettling. You see, the official reports focus on the melting permafrost. They talk about carbon, methane, and dormant viruses. But they rarely mention the seismic activity. The ground beneath Siberia is not just thawing, it is actively moving. Think about that for a moment. This region, once considered geologically stable, is now experiencing tremors, small ones, but persistent. These tremors are not random. Geologists have mapped them. They originate from beneath the crater, deep below the exposed ice. Dr. Elena Petrova, a seismologist at the Siberian branch of the Russian Academy of Sciences, has been tracking these microquakes since 2018. Her data shows a distinct pattern, a steady increase in frequency, but undeniable intensification. This isn't just the ground settling. This is something else entirely. What force could be at work here? What could be causing these deep structural shifts? The textbooks usually stop at permafrost melt, but the reality is far more complex. The crater is exposing layers of rock that have been buried for millions of years. These are not just ancient soils. These are geological formations. And some formations are known to contain vast quantities of pressurized gases. Not just methane, but others, deeper and far more volatile. This is the part few people talk about. The Batagaika crater is a pressure release valve, a opening wound in the Earth's crust. As the permafrost cap weakens, it allows these deep-seated gases to escape, but relentlessly. You can hear it in the crater's groans. Those low-frequency vibrations? They are not just the sound of ice melting. They are the sound of the Earth exhaling. And here's the twist. The rate of expansion of the crater, that 30 meters per year, is accelerating. It's not linear, it's exponential. The more gas escapes, the more unstable the surrounding permafrost becomes. The more unstable it becomes, the faster it melts. It's a vicious cycle, one that feeds on itself. Consider the implications. We are witnessing a geological event, one triggered by climate change, yes, but one that is now dictating its own terms. The crater has become an active participant in its own destruction, and in ours. This isn't just about ancient viruses. This isn't just about greenhouse gases. This is about the very ground beneath your feet. What happens when the pressure builds too much? What happens when this exhalation becomes a violent expulsion? We have seen examples of this elsewhere. The Yamal Peninsula, for instance, where massive sinkholes have appeared almost overnight, gigantic craters formed by sudden explosions of methane. But the Batagaika crater is different. It's not a sudden event. It's a prolonged, growing phenomenon. It's a continuous broadcast, a warning. And what exactly is it warning us about? The data from Dr. Petrova's seismic sensors is chilling. She has detected a distinct signature, a specific frequency that correlates with the release of these deeper gases. It's not constant. It ebbs and flows, like a pulse, a heartbeat, a message. And this message is not from microbes. It is from the Earth itself. The locals have their own theories. Old legends speak of a breathing mountain, a place where the spirits of the underworld communicate with the living. Dismissed as superstition, these tales now take on a darker meaning. What if these ancient stories were not just stories? What if they were observations, passed down through generations, a memory of something immense, something powerful? The very idea challenges everything we think we know about our planet. We believe we understand geological processes. We believe we can predict them. But the Batagaika crater defies easy categorization. It is a new kind of threat, an evolving danger, and it is broadcasting its intentions, not in words, but in vibrations, in the very movement of the Earth. You are witnessing a phenomenon that is rewriting the rules of geology, a giant waking up, and its voice is growing louder, its message clearer. But are we truly listening, or are we simply hearing what we expect to hear? The official narrative focuses on human impact, our carbon footprint, our deforestation, all valid concerns. But what if the crater has become something more, something autonomous, a force of nature unleashed, and now beyond our control? This isn't just a scar, it's a mouth, and it's speaking. But what exactly is it saying? And to whom? The implications are profound. If the Earth itself is reacting in this way, what does that mean for our future? What does it mean for your future? The crater continues to expand. The sounds continue to emanate. And the question remains, what unseen architects are truly shaping this deepening chasm? They are not a mystery. They have names and faces. You are looking at one of them. His name is Errol Struchkov. He is not a scientist with a government grant. He is a resident of the nearby village of Batagay. And this crater is in his backyard. His father remembers when it all began in the 1960s. It wasn't a crater. Not then. It was just a small gully, a ravine carved into the land by logging operations. Think about that for a moment. One man's living memory contains the entire birth of this geological catastrophe. For Errol, the broadcast from the ice is not data. It is the sound of his ancestral hunting grounds being erased. The deep groans are not seismic vibrations. They are the spirits of the taiga crying out in pain. This is the belief of the local Yakut and Evenk people. A belief that was, for decades, dismissed as simple folklore. But here's the part the official reports leave out. Their folklore warned of this. Ancient stories spoke of the land collapsing if the sacred forests were cut. They were ignored. Now you stand on the edge of that prophecy made real. Then there is the other architect, Professor Sergei Zimov. He has poured 40 years of his life into this frozen world. He doesn't hear spirits in the groaning ice. He hears numbers. He hears the 1,600 gigatons of carbon ticking like a time bomb. He hears the methane, 80 times more potent than CO2, hissing into the atmosphere. And he hears the silence from a world that refuses to listen. Imagine dedicating your life to shouting a warning, only to have the sound swallowed by the wind. The scientific papers describe the brutal conditions. Temperatures of -50°C. But they don't describe the feeling. The way the cold sears your lungs. The ache in your bones that never leaves. The psychological toll of watching a world you love die before your eyes. Zimov's work isn't academic. It's a eulogy, written in advance. So, is the crater a message or a machine? The local resident and the Russian scientist stand on opposite sides of a vast cultural divide. Yet they are staring into the same abyss, and they are both telling you the same thing. The land is speaking. The land is breaking. The government documents authorizing the logging in the 1960s have never been fully declassified. The sections that remain public speak of production quotas and 5-year plans. They do not mention the local elders who pleaded with the Soviet officials, who warned them that this specific area was sacred, that the ground there was unstable. You see, this was never just a story about climate change. It is a story about knowledge that was ignored, a story about arrogance. Errol Struchkov still walks the crumbling edge of the crater. He collects mammoth tusks, ancient bison skulls, and pieces of 650,000-year-old wood exposed by the thaw. He is a curator of a history that is disappearing as quickly as it is revealed. He knows this ground is not safe. His village, Batagay, is only a few kilometers away. Every boom from the crater is not a distant event. It is a countdown timer for his home. He was asked recently what he will do if he is forced to leave, if the crater finally consumes his village. He looked directly into the camera, and he was silent for a full 10 seconds. Then he spoke. "Where would we go?" he asked. "This is our world." He wasn't just talking about his village, was he? He wasn't just talking about his village. He was talking about this world, your world. And now, you have to ask yourself the same question. Where would you go? Think about it. There is no other place. This is it. The broadcast from the Batagayka crater is not a local news bulletin. It is a global address. And it's not the only station on the air. Similar mega slumps are now appearing across the Arctic, from Canada to Alaska. They are all broadcasting the same message, the same hiss of melting ice, the same groan of collapsing Earth. But here's the part that is never mentioned in the climate summits. We have no technology to stop this. None. You cannot simply patch a hole a kilometer long and 100 meters deep. You cannot refreeze 1,600 gigatons of thawing carbon. The official plans talk of reducing emissions, of carbon credits and green energy, all necessary, but it does not stop the crater. It does not silence the broadcast. The crater is now a self-sustaining system, a geological engine we switched on and then lost the key for. This is where the conversation usually stops. It becomes too big, too frightening. But we must keep listening, because the broadcast is changing. The scientists, like Sergei Zimov, are no longer just measuring the rate of collapse. They are measuring the change in the composition of the gases. New elements, once trapped deep within the Earth, are being detected. This information is not yet widely published. It remains in specialized geological journals. Read that last sentence again. We are flying blind into a new atmospheric reality. The Earth is communicating a fundamental shift in its own chemistry. And we are not even part of the main conversation. We are simply bystanders to a process we initiated, a process that now has a life of its own. It forces you to look at our world differently, We treat the Earth as a resource, a stage for our human drama. But what if we are just a single, fleeting biological layer, as temporary as the 650,000-year-old ice, now turning to gas? The crater does not care about our politics. It does not recognize our borders. It is a physical truth, and it demands a response, not of words, but of action, of humility. The ancient stories of the Yakut people spoke of respecting the land. They saw it not as a thing to be owned, but as a living entity to coexist with. Perhaps the broadcast is not a warning. Perhaps it is an answer to our own arrogance. The permafrost holds the planet's memory, frozen in time. But what is the memory of humanity? Is it the wisdom of Errol Struchkov's ancestors? Or is it a declassified logging permit from 1960? The Earth is showing us its past. It is broadcasting its present.